All right, hello students. Today we're moving on with lesson 16 from ratios to rates. So now we're going to start talking. We've been talking about ratios pretty much for the first 15 lessons. Now we're going to start making the transitions from ratios now to a rate. Very similar. The only thing different with a rate is now we're going to include units such as feet, seconds, miles, hours, dollars, things like that, depending on what we're talking about, of course. So ratios can be transformed to rates and unit rates. And of course, a unit rate is a comparison to one. So if I'm trying to buy, like if I buy, kind of going into the next one, if I buy a 4-pack of soda, a unit rate is how much does it cost for actually one of those soda cans, not for the whole pack. And of course, that's what we're going to talk about kind of down here. So let's go over our first example. Diet Cola was on sale last week. It cost $10 for every 4-pack packs of Diet Cola. How much do 2 packs of Diet Cola soda cost? So we have the 4-pack here. It costs $10. We want to know how much a 2-pack costs. So we have a couple things we have to set up. Well, first we need to talk about the packs or packs of Diet Cola. The other thing we have, of course, is the total, how much it actually costs. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. There you go. All right, so this is kind of the two parts of this problem. We have the packs, and then we have the cost. Well, the first thing we have, of course, let's go ahead and grab a pen now. I have that set up. The first thing that's just presented to us is the fact that we have a 4-pack for $10. So a 4-pack, once again, number of packs, and that's going to cost us $10. So go ahead and put our dollar sign there. All right, well, we don't want a 4-pack here. It says how much does a 2-pack cost? So we need to make the transition from 4 to 2. And of course, we do that by dividing by 2. Well, of course, if we divide the top by 2, it means we divide the bottom by 2. And of course, that would be $5. So when we talked about this before, this was kind of really a ratio. Actually, if I take out, actually, I probably shouldn't have these dollar signs in. Let's go and get rid of those. If you put it in pen, just go and cross them out. Because right now, this is a ratio. Once again, I kind of jumped ahead. We're talking about ratios to rate. So right now, this is a ratio. 4-pack to 10, a 2-pack to 5. And now we go ahead and we answer the question. It cost, a 2-pack of Diet Cola cost $5. And now this is where the dollar sign would actually come in. Oops, I forgot the actual 5. So this is kind of your rate, or this is your rate. 2 packs of Diet Cola, and then the cost of $5. This right here, this kind of table up here in the blue, those are the ratios. The rate, of course, would be the actual answer. So next part says, how much does 1 pack of Diet Cola cost? Well, we take this one step further. So let's go ahead and grab our pen. So instead of it being 1, we would have, instead of being 2, we would convert it to 1. And of course, that's dividing by 2. So that means we have to divide 10 by 2 as well. And hopefully, we come up with 2.5. If we're talking about dollars, remember, this is $2.50. So how much would 1 pack cost? And this is our unit rate. So let's go ahead and get our text box and put down here. This is the singular one. This is called the unit rate. We're taking it down from the 4-pack all the way down to the 1-pack, and this is what we're talking about as our unit rate. So 1 pack. Let's get that out of the way. Diet Cola cost. Now this is where we actually use the units, $2.50. When we're talking about rate, this is when we start to use those units themselves. All right, go ahead and move on to the second part or to the next. All right, in this example here, we're going to kind of do the same basic thing. We're going to break it down to a unit rate. So once again, I want you to put up here, here's an example of a unit rate. So if you get to a question where it talks about unit rate, here's an example. So once again, we're going to take the information, we're going to break it down to a unit of 1. So if we kind of look through this information here, he went to Gamers Realm to buy new video games. The Gamers Realm is having a sale, $65. Here's kind of an important piece of information. $65 for 4 video games. He buys 3 games for himself and 1 game for his friend Diego. So once again, 3 games for himself and 1 for his friend. But Tegan does not know how much Diego owes him for the 1 game. What is the unit price of the video games? What is the unit rate? All right, so this is kind of like I said, very similar to what we did before. We are going to first take the information presented. So first we have the cost, and then here we have the number of video games. Oops, what are we talking about? Oh, video games. All right, so let's go ahead and write down kind of the information we have. This one I'm going to do vertically. The other one I did kind of horizontally. This one I'm going to do vertically, just in case you prefer it that way. Once again, we're first going to talk about kind of a ratio, and we're going to convert it to a rate. So of course the cost is $65, and then here is 4 games. Well, remember, we want to know how much it costs for just simply 1 game, because Diego owes us for the 1 game. So of course we want to convert this from 4 to 1. And so by doing that, we divide by 4. And so that means we have to divide this by 4. And we go ahead and do the division. Remember, we did the division. We want to see how many times 4 can go into 65. And so remember, you can do the work on the side here. So remember, 4 would go on the outside, 65 would go on the inside. What I'm going to do is we're going to go over the answer and kind of talk about it, and then maybe we'll go through the steps. But here, when you go 65 divided by 4, that is 1625. So what that means is each game costs $16.25. So that would be the unit rate. For 1 game, it costs $16.25. So let's go ahead and write that down. This is how much Diego would owe. It says, what is the unit price of 1 game? So let's go ahead and put something down here. The unit price of the video game, excuse me, is $16.25. So what does that mean? What is the unit rate? That means it is $16. So now that we're talking about rates, as you can see, I have the dollar sign. This is not a ratio. $16.25 per game, or per 1 game, or for each 1 game. So the units that are involved, the units are, dollars, right? Because it costs dollars over games, or over the singular game. So this right here, this kind of answers the first part. What is the unit price per game? It is 1 game, or the unit price per game, video games, is $16.25, or $16.25 per game. And it says, what is the unit? What is the rate unit? The rate unit's right here. So let me go ahead and label that for you. The rate unit just simply means, of course, if you need to, you can be able to just put it over here. The rate unit is just simply telling us what units are involved. The units are involved are the dollars and the games. So of course, that's what we're talking about, dollars here, and we're talking about games over here. All right, so really quickly, let's go just to kind of show you how I came up with the $16.25. I know I kind of jumped here. If you know how to do this division, you can kind of skip this part. I'm okay with that. But this is how I did this. 4 goes into 6 1 time, and of course that's a 4. We do the subtraction. That would be a 2. We bring down the 5. 4 goes into 25. That would be 6 times, and of course that's 24. And this is where most people are going to try to stop, because there's nothing here. Well, remember, we're dealing with decimals now, so we got to put our decimal point here, add the 0, and then bring that 0 down. And then we go 4 into 10, that goes twice. If you want to, you can bring the decimal point up as you go. That's perfectly fine. 8 times 2 is, sorry, 4 times 2 is 8. And of course, that gives me 2. And of course, we're talking about dollars, so we need at least go to one more decimal point, or one more 0. And of course, 4 goes into 25 times. And of course, 4 times 5 is 20. And of course, when we're doing the division, we want the 0 down here at the very, very bottom. Since we have the 0, this is where there's the $16.25 that I got over here. All right, so that's kind of that exploratory challenge type of problem. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of this type of problem. Our next problem is very similar to this, and part B in the next section. All right, hello students. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to kind of one more problem. Actually, this problem you're going to actually be kind of doing on your own or with your partner. I'm going to get you started with the kind of doing exercises I and double I, and you're going to finish up B, and you're also going to do the next page, I believe, is 82 or part C. So let's go ahead and get started with this, and then you can finish this up with your partner. All right, so we have 4 football fans take turns driving the distance between New York and Oklahoma to see the big game. Each driver sets the cruise control. In case you don't know what cruise control is, it just sets the car at a constant rate of speed so it doesn't change. That way, kind of you can relax a little bit more. Cruise control during his or her portion of the trip, enabling him or her to travel at a constant rate of speed. So there you go. The group changes drivers each time they stop for gas and record their driving time and distance in the table below. All right, so here we go. We have 4 fans here. We have the distance, or how far they traveled, and then how long it took them to get there. So of course, that's our table. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at kind of the first part. It says use the given data to answer the following questions. So we're going to use this table right here to answer the following questions below. First one says, what 2 quantities are being compared? So what are 2 quantities being compared? Well, the 2 quantities, of course, are the distance here and the time, how far they travel and how long it takes them to get there. All right, so let's go ahead and put that in, excuse me. The 2, I'll get that out of the way, quantities that are being compared are distance. Oops, let's go ahead and fix that. Distance and time. And for the units, okay, we look at this as kind of as the rate unit. The rate unit, of course, distance is time, is miles over hours. So what these are is this, miles is a distance, hours is a unit of time, but what we're actually using, the units themselves, of course, are miles over hours, and this is called a rate unit. The rate unit is when you compare, just simply stating the units that are being compared. All right, so now here we're gonna start kind of breaking down each individual's portion. It says which ratio of the 2 quantities for Andre's portion of the trip. What is the associated rate? So first we want to know what Andre's ratio is. Well, remember, first thing we talked about is the distance. So distance comes first. Here's Andre, and he has a 208. That's all. Remember, this is a ratio, so there's no units involved. We're going to go ahead and use a colon to separate that. And now we have the number of hours. He went for 4 hours. He traveled 208 miles in 4 hours. So now if we're looking at the rate of speed, so now as the associated rate here is kind of how fast this is actually going. So what we do is we do some division. This is when our division comes out. So let's go ahead and do our division real quick. So he went for 4 hours. He went 208 miles. Of course, you can use your multiplication table to help you if needed. So 4 cannot go into 2, but 4 can go into 25 times. And of course, that's a perfect 20. So subtract, we get 0. Now, a lot of people want to stop here because they get a 0. Don't stop. You have the 8 here you have to bring down, so make sure we bring down the 8s. And then 4 goes into 8 twice. And of course, that is 8 itself. And so we do the subtraction, and of course, we get 0. Since we have a 0 here and nothing else, that is kind of the first part of the rate. Actually, I'm going to get out a text tool so I can write this out very cleanly for you, since we're moving on from ratios now to rate. So he traveled 52, and now we're talking about the first quantity or the first unit. This is why we use this rate unit up here. The first rate unit is miles over hours. So this is 52, and of course we're talking about miles. And then over, or miles, we're going to say per hour. This is called a rate of speed, 52 miles per hour. The per represents 1. The per right there, that statement right there represents 1 hour. That's why we did the division. He actually went 208 miles in 4 hours, or we could say 208 miles in 4 hours. That's also a rate. But we're dropping it down to what we call a unit rate, or we want to know how far it travels in 1 hour. That way we can compare the 4 individuals to each other in a question later. All right, so your job is to move on to III and IV, and you're going to find the rate, the ratio and the rate of each of the other drivers, and then you're going to move on to part C. When you have completed everything, please make sure you raise your hand and come check it with me before you move on. All right, go ahead and get started.